Lancaster Criminal Justice Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Shillette? Pickens? Here. Smith?
Present.
Velasquez? Present. Vice Chairman Fuller?
Present.
Chairman Vieira? We have a quorum.
Great. Commissioner Pickens, would you please lead us in the flag salute? All this meeting, Lancaster Criminal Justice Commission, to order. Okay, the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brown? Shillette?
Present.
Pickens? Here. Smith?
Present.
Velasquez? Present. Vice Chairman Fuller?
Present.
Chairman Vieira? We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. So we have a presentation today on AB 109. I don't see Mr. Carrico here. Are we going to be going forward with that, or?
Yes, I believe Captain Nelson is presenting.
Captain Nelson? Great. You're up.
Members of the Commission, I have a very brief set of stats on the AB 109 as of a couple of days ago.
Well, this morning we have with us
you had
Lieutenant
asked
Mark Stevens from the Commercial Crimes Bureau of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Welcome.
I can tell you that as of October 7th,
identity theft and cybercrime.
right at 400 PSPs have been released into the Lancaster Station area. That's as compared to about 313 for the Palmdale Station area. So we've got a little over 700 currently released into the two station
I'm
areas.
Lieutenant Mark Stevens, the Sheriff's Department Cybercrime Bureau.
Of all of the PSPs and PRCS releases under
cybercrime has
LA
been
County,
on the increase for
LASD
quite some time now.
is tasked with the supervision of about 3,000.
I've questioned organizations, I've questioned city governments and so forth as far
roughly a
as
quarter of all of
cybersecurity and
the,
so on. And what we're finding more and more is that Y2K was the real big threat way back when. And there was a lot
They've
of
done
time
some
and resources
operations,
put into
most of which were not up here.
getting ahead of the cybercrime issue.
I believe they have one scheduled
and
for
getting
tomorrow,
ahead of all the systems
which
crashes
is
back then
basically a
13
compliance
years
check.
ago. And a lot
Our
of
current
businesses,
PSP teams,
organizations, and so
for the
forth,
most part, are
have really kind of backed
rather
off
than doing
because
proactive,
nothing happened. Y2K was a big build-up and poof, nothing
compliance
happened.
checks are
Nothing
actually
happened because
spending
we
most
spent
of
a
their
lot
time looking for absconders.
really preparing ourselves for that
because
event.
that seems to be the
one of the biggest
number one
problems that we
issue
have
now
right
with
now is the
8109
fact that
releases, they just don't
technology has gotten so
really
far
no,
ahead of the security for cyber now.
motivation for them
and
to
law
do so.
enforcement's ability to deal with it is falling farther and farther behind because of budgetary constraints and so on.
So that
It's really presented a big problem for us. Cybercrime, identity theft, medical identity theft, theft of intellectual property, and when I say intellectual
our
property,
most
I'm not
wanted
just talking
PSP
about Hollywood
parolees,
and the music
all of them
industry.
are
I'm
parolees
talking
at
about,
large that failed to report.
corporations spending 2-3
I'm happy to say
years
that
on a
only one of them
prototype,
is actually from the Antelope
whether it's
Valley
a car
area.
or it's
However, he has been
a DOD
escaping
contract.
arrest now for
The loss of that
a number
information
of months.
costs corporations millions of dollars.
We continue to look for
Not to
him.
mention the
I
fact that we
believe
got
he's
our
probably
personal
not in the
cybercrime
area, since we have not located
from the
him yet.
standpoint of identity theft. We've got the skimming of credit cards and so on.
Overall,
just real quick
department-wide,
around the room, how many people know at least one person that's had their credit card?
The LA County Sheriff's Department has arrested
Probably just about everybody. And
a little over
talking about the advancement of
6,200
technology. How many people in here have a smartphone?
folks for various
Just about everybody
violations,
here.
and that's roughly
Think back to
29%
Y2K. You went into a
of the
meeting,
arrests
typically
made.
there were only a few people that had cell phones. Certainly not smartphones.
And I have a breakdown if you're
Smartphones are nothing but a
interested in
computer.
exactly
They're not
where
really a telephone. They're a
majority of
computer
those occurred.
that have telecommunications capability throughout the telephone
Again,
network.
the vast
old
majority of
days
the operations
of an analog phone system
elsewhere,
are gone, and now we're carrying
despite the
around
fact that we seem to
computers
have
that
the
are
highest number of
taking care of
releases
us
in the county,
digitally instead of in an analog
first station
format.
area.
And all that means
But part
is
of that
that
is,
our
like I said,
voices,
because
our
they're
videos,
spending
our
most of their time
photographs, and so
looking for
forth are
absconders,
being
and they break the team
converted
up.
into electronic means, packaged, and
With that,
sent
if you have
out
any
through a
questions,
network, one way or
I'll do my
another.
best to answer them.
This poses a real problem for us because
Are they getting a flash incarceration once they are
and so
being
what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring more awareness.
They have
awareness
had
not
some
only to the
limited
city,
success
but
with
also
flash
to the
incarceration,
general
but
public. We
as
want
you know,
people
it's
to
a very
become more
limited
aware
tool
of the
that
problems with cybercrime
isn't much of
and give
a
them some tools that
motivator
they can
for-
use in order to
they know it's going to be a very limited
prevent
time in jail.
themselves from becoming the victim.
So
I spoke a little bit
it
about
really
identity
doesn't,
theft. There's a new one that's on the rise now,
support
medical
their
identity theft. You may have
following
seen
their,
some
Conditions of release.
some news stories and so forth
the
about
failure
it.
to
Medical
report
identity
is
theft is
just
a real
violation,
danger, and the reason why it's a
crime.
danger is
So
if
are they getting
if
any
you have a
time for
drug
that?
interdiction that's listed in your electronic medical chart, and something happens to you, you wind up in the hospital with a life-threatening situation.
Any questions?
Somebody's used your medical information.
My
and now
understanding,
your
just real
electronic
briefly, that there were some
patient data has been
modifications
compromised
made
or it's been
at the state
actually
level.
altered.
I've yet to
And
read them,
I personally had this
but
happen to me where there was a
it sounds as if, and
medication
maybe
listed that I was
Mr. Moore can
supposedly
weigh in on
allergic
this
to,
as
but
well,
not allergic to it.
that they won't even
If I
have
wound up in
a
the
search
hospital
clause.
in a critical situation where
as they-
the doctor needed to give
as the
me
new releases start coming
life-saving
out,
medication,
a
when
search
they enter that
condition
into
won't
my
even be a
chart, it
condition of
could
their
pop
parole.
up with an interdiction
So
problem, and they'd say, hey,
we'll really
we
be
can't use this
hamstrung on
medication.
what, if anything, we
And
can
now
do,
that's putting me in a
with
compromised position
releases
as a
after that-
patient.
that
And those are the types of
starts.
things that we're worried about. What I'd like to provide to you today is to let you know that I'm available to do presentations
Not a very
on
cheering report, but thank you for
whether
the
it's home
update.
network security, skimming of credit cards, to talk about medical identity theft, cell phone security, those types of things. I'm available for PTA meetings. I'm available for town hall meetings if the city wanted to put a town hall meeting or something like that together.
For the
Civic
consent calendar,
organizations,
looking for a
Lions,
motion for the approval of minutes
Kiwanis,
September 11,
Elks, and so forth.
2013.
I'm available to do these presentations, but I would like to leave you a couple of tools today. First of all,
Motion to approve.
probably two of the biggest holes that we have in our
We have motion and a second. Any
cybersecurity.
discussion?
And when I talk about cybersecurity, let's take a company, we'll call it ABC Corporation. And ABC Corporation has several employees.
And
There are
unanimously,
some
thank you.
critical points that hackers use to get into
Go
these
to
corporate
staff
networks and the city
presentations,
networks and
updates,
so
and
forth.
reports.
And
Mr. Cope?
by placing malware on the computer, and malware can be introduced in many ways, I'm going to show you
Thank
actually
you,
a couple of live
Commissioner
phishing
Fuller.
emails here.
The measurement period for this
Also, if you come
report
across
is
a flash
September
drive,
1st to the 28th,
that just happens to
2013.
be sitting in a parking lot
These
outside
are
the city,
basically our statistics
or you
here.
find
We were-
one that's out in a parking lot of
After the AV
Walmart
fair, we
or wherever you happen
had
to
some
shopping.
residual weeks
Don't plug it
where
into
things
any
were
computer that you really care
kind of
about.
abnormally high. If you remember
And
last
keep in mind
reporting
that
period, we
your
had some
cybersecurity as a
weeks that
whole,
were up in
be
the
it your
70s
cell
and
phone,
80s.
your home network,
We can see the
business,
last 3 weeks
a
here
city
kind of
computer
settling
is
down
only
and
as
coming
strong
back
as the
down
weakest
to a
link.
range of normalcy for us.
And I'll give you an example.
Generally, if we're between
you're
about
working for
55
ABC
and
Company or ADC
70
Corporation, and
Part 1
ADC
crimes, we're in
Corporation
pretty good
has some
territory
top secret stuff that
for
somebody
the
wants to
city
get
in order to bring
Somebody
the
sees you come out
numbers
of
down. You
ADC
can see the last
Corporation,
3
they
weeks
realize,
there
okay,
for
this individual
total Part
drives
1
a blue
crimes were
Chevy.
53, 40,
I'll
or
drop a
64,
flash
and
drive on the
58,
ground
which are
right near
good
the blue
numbers.
Chevy. ABC
We take a look at
individual's going to come and say, hey, I
our
wonder whose flash drive
weekly
this is.
averages
They might plug that into a company
because of
computer.
the impact that we normally see
And automatically
associated
upload
around the
that to
Antelope Valley
computer
Fair.
to dial out to my
We were
hacker,
up
my computer, if I'm
with
the
a
hacker.
weekly average
And
of
now I'm
80
in that
Part 1
computer.
crimes per week
Now, I
with
may
a
not be
median
able
of
to get to
82.
anything yet, but now at least
During
I'm
this
in and I
reporting
can start
period,
working
which
on
is
this.
in
And
that
all I need
that
is
area
a
that's well past it
gateway
now,
and time.
we can see we've dropped down to
No
65.25
system,
Part 1
encrypted or
crimes
otherwise, is
per
100%
per week on average,
We know this
with a
because
median of
in the last 2
61.
years, Department of Defense, USDOJ,
This compares the previous, or our past 12 months to the previous 12 months.
They've all been hit. They've all been hacked.
And we've had a
Where there was
couple of
actually
months
an intrusion.
of over where we were
And,
the last time, but
Hackers
overall,
use flash drives. It's
right now,
one of the best
September to
places to do it,
September,
or a
September
SIM card.
13th, or 2013 to
From a
September
camera.
2012.
Plug that in.
We're up
plug that SIM card
10%
into
from
your-
where
into
we
your SIM
were
reader to see pictures on it. Oh, maybe I can find
September
out who
last
owns
year.
this. I'll see a picture that I
Our
recognize.
crime rate per
That
10,000
can also
population
have any type of file on it. It can be a
September
hot file,
2012
a
to
virus,
August
a worm,
2013
whatever
is sitting
they
at
want to look at the computer.
271.45,
The
which
other
is
way
up
that things are coming in,
2.65
and
points
this
from
is
my report last
probably
month.
the biggest issue. is
And
the phishing
again, just
email.
for
Everybody's
frame of
heard about it.
reference, our crime
I'm
rate
sure
at the end
everybody here has
of
received one. Hopefully none of you will fall
2012
victim to
was
it. But I'm going to show you a couple.
279.93, so we're still in pretty good territory. We're almost 10 points below where we were, so that's not bad. Most active reporting districts, 1137 had 47,
This is a phishing email
1135
if
had
you look at it.
36,
It looks very, very
1127 had
very
33,
real. From American
1126 had
Express,
25, and
you've reached the
you can see
notification
the
amount that you
bottom
set on
two
your
are
account.
starting to drop down
Now,
to fairly
here's
low
some
numbers.
clues.
Just to
Read
give
the
you an
first
idea
line.
how
It
that
says,
lays
"Dear
out on the
customer,
map.
spin the
This is
activity."
1137,
It's your last statement.
but the
Use
majority of
proper
the Part 1
grammar and
crimes you can see in the
proper
highest
English. It
density
says
area
spin instead of
within
spending
about
activity.
probably 4 or 5 blocks
This is an
of
example
Avenue J south
the types of
from
errors that are
20th
made in
Street
these
East
phishing
over
emails that you
to
can look
Challenger
for. There
Way.
are clues that there might
And
be
then
an
you
issue.
start getting out into the further reaches of
What this says is that the spending
reporting
amount has
district,
has
and you
been
can see
reached on
things
your
are pretty
account that you asked for
pretty,
notifications.
peaceful
It
out
says the
there.
notification amount that you set was $5,000.
1135,
Now, somebody that has an American
which is
Express card
the
might want to
mirror
really
of that
reach
district to the
$5,000
north
on
of
their
Avenue
account, so
J.
they know the curve they're
Again, you
spending
can see the
against
same
unless we
phenomenon
cover the
going on
bill.
about
And this, it says your total
4 or
spending
5
activity
blocks north of Avenue J from 20th Street East to Challenger Way.
Realistic. And at the bottom, it says most recent charge approved, $2,520.
1127 is over on the west side of town, but you can see, even though it makes our list, you get off of the Valley Central Way and things drop off pretty quickly. Again, the vast majority of our activity in that area is along Valley
Use the
Central Way.
link on this because
Kind of goes back to the analysis that we did before,
my computer. So what you're
primary areas of
snapshot
concentration
of the phishing email.
for Part 1
But I do
crime
have another
activities are drilling down basically to 10th West and Avenue K, Valley Central Way, basically Lancaster Boulevard up to I, and over to 20th Street East and Avenue J. Those are our primary areas
difficult to read on the
of
screen, but it
activity,
says, I hope you
and
find-
you see them popping up
I hope this email
over
finds you
and over
well. Kindly
again.
log on to view the document I uploaded for you using Google Doc. It could have come from a friend. Oftentimes, these are fished through.
1126, again, you can see the area of 10th Street West and Avenue K. That's where our highest density is. Then we get a little bit more density up here around Avenue J and 10th Street West. Then if you get out into the other reaches of the reporting district, things are, again, not bad.
This is something Columbus.com, and then it says CGBin. That's not a
1121, again, some of the same phenomena, as I said, Lancaster Boulevard up to Avenue I, and from basically Sierra Highway over to 10th Street West. And that's what we see here. The vast majority of our density is right along Avenue I from basically Sierra Highway to 10th Street West.
Password so that you can't get in, and that buys me time. Now, another issue is passwords. If you don't have a different password...
And 1122 is the area that's around Lancaster Boulevard. You can see that's where the highest density is in this area, going a couple blocks each direction, north and south. And that's essentially where it's at.
Your password information and so forth, so that they can get in and get into your accounts and move your money around. This is just a small sample. I just wanted to use that as an example. Beware of
Residence
emails.
burglaries,
You know,
1137
flash drive in your,
had 9,
your computer,
1127
so you don't
had
know where it
4,
came from.
and 1135 also had 4. 1159 and 92
Captain
each
Nelson
had
has
3.
my contact information. I'm going to leave some business
For
cards with you.
larcenies involving vehicles, the leader was 1137, again was 7.
Thank you very much.
1127 followed by
Thank
1122.
you. Is there any place you could direct
Our
us
trends
someone
for
might
the
be watching
past
us on
52 weeks,
internet?
we only have a few this time that are trending up. We seem to either be
more
leveling off
information,
or
It's probably
having a
easiest
few
to get a
join
hold of me
the
at an email
downward
address.
trend.
M as in Mary.
Again, trended
W
up
as in
because we
W,
had that 1 week back in
STEVEN.
week 29 where we
At
hit 4 in 1 week.
LASD.org.
So until that cycles through, we're going to show a
Okay, so MW Steven, STEVEN, at LASD.org.
Correct.
So if you have someone from a civic organization, Rotary, Elks, whatever,
Yes.
or a school.
And I can come out and I can do a customized presentation for whatever they need. If they're concerned about their kids and social media, we can talk about that. If they're concerned about cell phone security, cyber security, that sort of thing, I can talk about home network security is a real big issue as well. Make sure that your home network is secure so that your business information that you bring home doesn't get hacked into.
Outstanding. Do you have any
Questions?
Christy?
Yes, thank you very much, Lieutenant Stevens, for your presentation. One of the main things that caught my attention was the medical identity theft that you were discussing.
Yes.
And I just was curious to find out what sort of education, training, or informative presentations have the hospitals, if any, have undergone? Because it seems as though the example that you gave is quite scary, that something like that where even if they needed a medication or a medication was listed on a patient's file that they may in fact were allergic to cause such irreparable, life-threatening harm is quite concerning at this point, especially for the elderly when they just walk into a hospital and they're just pretty much going on the basis of what their file indicates without, notifying nurses or doctors about their past medical history under the assumption that it has been securely filed and confidential.
Well, the security of the medical information, and what I don't want to do here is scare everybody, okay? The point that I'm making is this. Medical information is secure. I mean, it's about as secure as you can get it. Electronic medical charts, they have a lot of benefits. If there's a problem, if I'm in that situation, I'm in the hospital doesn't have to call doctors and wake them up to get information about my background. They can go right in, they can download my information, and they can get busy. And save minutes, maybe even as much as an hour in time to get me the treatment that I need. The issue is that if your personal information gets compromised, if your medical insurance information gets compromised, like you drop your wallet, now somebody finds your medical insurance card, they may sell that information or whatever, now somebody goes in and they pose as you at a doctor's appointment to get some kind of treatment, and they go through the screening and they've got an allergy to something or some other type of medical condition. If it gets used and it gets by and it gets uploaded into your chart, there can be a problem. It doesn't happen very often, but I do know that it has happened. My recommendation to people is that when you go in for your annual checkup, ask to review your chart. Ask for a list of every doctor's appointment that you had in the last year. And if there's one to a Dr. Jones that you don't know Dr. Jones, probably be a good idea if you had somebody look into that to see what that was all about. So those are the types of things that we would talk about, and we don't have a big, long medical identity theft presentation that we can do because it's really pretty simple. If somebody uses your identity, it's going to modify your chart. So you need to check your chart, just like you would check your credit report on a regular basis. The same thing's true with your medical information.
Well, because I have been to several different medical offices where they're, basically saying we've gone paperless. Also, you can find your file online. So the sort of hacking that you were discussing was concerning, but as long as, that you feel that they're making heightened security efforts in this particular area.
The medical industry's done a real good job of making sure that their servers are secure. And, in 10 minutes, it's very difficult for me to explain all of this.
Right.
My issue is that I want the public to be more aware of cybercrime. I want local government to be more aware of cybercrime. It's an issue, and there hasn't been a lot of money spent on it at the local level because the money just hasn't been available. The federal government has done a pretty good job. If you know what the Silk Road was, it was an underground website that was used for primarily narcotics trafficking. The FBI took it down October 1st. They arrested the guy that was running it. They've done a very good job with that. It was published. In fact, you can do a search on the Silk Road in USA Today. There's a whole series of articles on it. At the federal level, that's taken care of, but at the local level, it's a little more difficult. These investigations are complex. They require special training and equipment for the detectives that are doing these investigations. And, let's face it, when somebody steals the gold out of the golden years of a senior, it's heart-wrenching. And we'd really like to be able to do everything we can in order to recover the money and at least trap the guy or the individual who caused the problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
A minor but related problem. I'm not sure this is your bailiwick, but is coming from the emergency medicine department at AB Hospital. We're seeing an outbreak, a dramatic increase in forged narcotic prescriptions. And some of these are very sophisticated, the way they're able to duplicate the triplicate format, and they show up all over the state. Question then is, who would you contact to do some follow-through and attempt to track that down?
Well, I would start at, with a police report. That's where it's going to start. Station detectives are going to track down the people who are going to be the individuals that would look into that. If you're talking about a written subscription, that's way outside of my parameters, but I'm certain that either our Major Crimes Bureau would be involved in that or our narcotics personnel.
Captain Nelson, do you have a comment related to that question?
I would agree that most likely the first thing that would be done is a report alleging a forgery occurred would be authored, and if it was for the purposes of obtaining illegal prescription medications, then it would likely be kind of a joint investigation by our station detective and Narcotics Bureau personnel.
Any comments? Yeah.
I just want to thank you for your presentation. I work with a local church, very informative. We've actually had both of those emails similar sent out. So at our staff meetings, what we do is we try to educate the staff as much as possible on the emails that are coming out. So your seminars will be a great benefit to those in the community who can take use of that.
Very good. Well, feel free to contact me.
Yeah, especially the American Express. They come pretty often, too.
There's every banking institution
Wow.
is used.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Interesting. Thank you.
thank you.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Very informative. The goal was not to scare us, you failed.
Humble apology.
No, but it's good to raise awareness, so we appreciate you taking the time that you spent with us today to give us a lot more information, good information, and contact information as well, so thank you. This is the time we entertain public business from the floor and agendized items. Do we have any speaker cards?
We have no speaker cards.
Okay. So we go to the consent calendars. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes from October 9th, and if so, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Schlett. I need a second.
Second.
From
Sure.
Sheree Pickens. Okay. Let's call for the question. Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. Go to Commission staff presentations, updates, and reports, starting with monthly crime statistics from Jim Cobalt, Senior Criminal Justice Analyst.
Thank you, Vice Chair Fuller. The measurement period for this report is September 29th through November 2nd. These are the relevant crime report or crime frequencies, arrest frequencies, and report numbers issued by the Lancaster station. These are also online, so I'm not going to run through them. Just say that our low week for Part 1 crimes was October 6th to the 12th, and our high week for Part 1 crimes was October 27th through November 2nd. When we compare this report to last reporting period, our last reporting period we had 65.25 Part 1 crimes per week on average with a weekly median of 61. We jumped up a little bit this week, or this reporting period, to 72.8 for an average and a weekly median of 76. This shows a comparison of this 12-month period to the previous 12-month period. We can see when we compare October 2012 to October 2013 that we're up 27% for the month. Crime rate per 10,000 population, November 2012 through October 2013, is 276.26, which is about a 4.79 jump from the October report. Just bearing in mind that our 2012 crime rate was 279.93, so we're kind of getting back into that area again. Take a look at our most active reporting districts. They are 1135, 1126, 1127, 1121, and 1132. If we take a look at those on the map, this is 1135, basically from Challenger Way out to 30th Street East, Avenue J up to Avenue H. You can see the heaviest concentration down here about 20th Street East and Avenue J, and then following along Avenue J a little bit to the west of there. Essentially, that's our commerce area for that particular reporting district. Everything else, when we get away from there, starts to spread out just a little bit. You can see we had a little bit of a burglary issue out on the east side of that reporting district, but everything else is pretty normal. Take a look at 1126. Again, you can see the highest density is around the commercial area, 10th Street West and Avenue K. For 1127, it's pretty much the commercial area along Valley Central Way. You get away from that, you can see things pretty much drop off. There's a little bit of activity down here around the apartment complexes that are on J8, but again, you get away from that out in the residential areas and things pretty much drop off. (1121) has a little activity down along Avenue J and 10th Street West. Everything else is pretty spread out. (1132), you've got a little bit of a density down around Lancaster Boulevard. And aside from that, things, as you get further out into the residential areas, things are lighten up quite a bit. Taking a look at residential burglary, the biggest reporting district, or the highest frequency reporting district for residential burglary during this time was 1135, followed by 1132, 1121, 1127, 1136. Larcenies involving vehicles or thefts from vehicles, 1137, followed by 1127, and then 1122, 23, and 26 all clustered together. When we take a look at our 52-week trends going from November 4th, 2012 through November 2nd, 2013, we have basically about 6 areas right now that are trending up, starting with rape. We had 1 week back in week 29 where we had 4 reported rapes. After that, things dropped off to what is the 2, and then down to 1 in the last couple of weeks. You can see we're still trending above the baseline in that. Again, it's a very low frequency crime for us, so if you get a week where you have 3 or 4, that will really drive our numbers for a while, or at least the trend line. Take a look at robbery. About 6 of the last 9 weeks have been above or at or above the baseline on that. We average about 5.96 robberies per week, and on the right side of the graph over here, you can see that we've been trending above that for a while. For assault, we're actually well below the baseline all the way across. We haven't had a week in the last 52 weeks where we've broken above our baseline. Our baseline for aggravated assault is 15.09. For grand theft auto, the week 44 we got up to about 18 auto thefts. Prior to that, we were staying pretty close to or below the baseline. And we look at arson, again, a very low frequency crime for us. You can see we had a couple of weeks in the last 52 weeks where we had 3 reported arsons during the course of the time, and of course that's on this side of the midway point, so it's going to make it look like we're trending up. Homicide is a downward trend. The weeks that are shown here are the weeks that we had a homicide, or at least 1 homicide in that week. And the larceny, this is the highest frequency Part 1 crime for us. You can see particularly the last 4 or 5 weeks, we're really trending down in that. When we make inroads with larceny, our crime rates come down normally. This is how the Part 1s lay out across the city for this reporting period. And the red, or the green through red colors on there show or indicate where the lowest and highest frequencies were. This is our spatial trend analysis, and essentially what this shows us is during this reporting period how things compared to the previous reporting period. The red indicates where things went up, the green indicate where things went down. These are the locations with 10 or more calls for service during this reporting period. One that's back on there that hasn't been for a while is Windrose Apartments over on Division, and the McDonald's restaurant over on East Avenue J. Aside from that, everything else, the Artist Loft down on Lancaster Boulevard, these are normally not seen on there, so they're fairly new additions. This shows us how it lays out across the map across the city. And this is our forecast for November. We're forecasting 361 Part 1 crimes for November of 2013. During our report last month, we forecasted for October 386. We had an actual of 378 for an accuracy rating of 98%. And that's the data.
Jim, Real quick, I hope I misunderstood, but a couple things that kind of caught my attention. That when you started, you said that we were up 27%, and then the other...
Yeah, if you compare the month of... If you compare the month of October 2012 to the month of October 2013, there's a 27% jump there, yes, sir.
And then the other was, I think, November of 2012 to 2013, 5 or 6 of the major areas were up. And I guess what I'm saying is there any prediction or reason why? Is it...
There's a higher frequency.
I mean, but being up that much, is there...
Yeah,
What we need to do, excuse me, Jim, is perspective on what categories they're in.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look like where our focus has been with larcenies, you see a trending down pattern based on programs that we've implemented and working together with the focus from Captain Nelson. But the other ones may be the low-frequency issues. We had a number of those in those low-frequency categories that drives that percentage. Okay. So I think we have to have perspective on what kind of numbers we have as a baseline related for those crimes, and then the impact of a couple additional ones within those weeks that drives that percentage.
I think just based upon our experience in working with the business improvement groups now too, one of the things that you're seeing with the robberies is oftentimes the merchants are really working with us in these business improvement groups. They're, particularly the Targets and the Walmarts, are really increasing their activity. Now, one of the sidelines that goes along with that, particularly when we get into that robbery category, is when somebody walks out of a Walmart or a Target after committing a shoplift and they're approached by their loss prevention person, and their loss prevention person says, "Come back into the store with me," and they say, "No, I'm not going," and maybe they push the loss prevention person away. All of a sudden, that shoplift, what formerly would have been a or a larceny, is now a robbery. And so that's one of the things that we're seeing, and we were pretty encouraged with our last business improvement group meeting for the Valley Central Way area. We haven't really expanded over to the east side yet. We actually had representatives from the Walmart on the east side at this one, wanting to know when things were going to go that way. So we're seeing some pretty good activity from it. They are responding, and you're probably going to see some of these numbers for a little while until they get good control of their space again.
Okay, help me understand the 27%, though, if we can go back to that again. My understanding, I thought, was that we're talking about 27% increase in number of crimes, correct? Total number?
Part 1 crimes, yes.
Part 1 crimes. Okay, so a significant increase in a small category of murders, for example, that went from 1 to 4 is still just an increase of 3. It figures into the total number.
Exactly.
It wouldn't drive that percentage in any way, correct?
What you have to understand is the number that we're dealing with, the 378 that we're dealing with for this or for that month, is pretty normal for us. We had a November last year where we had 298 Part 1 crimes. That's abnormal for us. We normally, particularly in November, or in October, normally don't have a number that low. If you go back and look at the previous Octobers, we normally don't score that low. So we had a really good month. And so what you're basically doing is, if you look across the graph, we're dealing with what are really normal numbers. You're looking at things that are stabilizing, and you're comparing that to a month where we had abnormally low numbers, 298 Part 1 crimes. And so I would be concerned about this if we were up over 400 Part 1 crimes in a month, but we're not. We're at 378. And if you graph that out going back, which I did before this meeting, if you graph that going back to January 1st of 2000, we're still in a pretty good range. That 27%, you're comparing what's really kind of a normal or average month to us to one that was really abnormal. Yeah, we've got, it looks like we had a big jump, but it's comparing it to something that we normally don't see. If you go back and look at the months for the previous 12 months before that, we don't have a month that approached 298 Part 1 crimes. Everything else was up in the mid 300s to upper 300s, and if we would have been comparing to a month like that, we would have been just pretty much normal.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the clarification. It wasn't my intention to sound the alarm bell, but rather to understand the number, and it's an absolute term, so I understand that, and it's month to month, year to year. And then overall, looking at the yearly trend, it actually gives you a better indicator. Every month's a snapshot, just like every week is a snapshot. So that could be decreased next month, and we would see a trend of...
Well, and if you look at the forecast, it actually is forecasting a decrease for next month. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what the data is for that month.
Yeah, it was more a question of methodology than it was behind that, but I do have one that is behind that, which is surprised me to see in the repeat calls the artist loft departments showing up. Quite frankly.
Well,
is there attributable to something?
It's skateboarders. I mean, they're calling about skateboarders. And I think that's something we've encouraged them to do, so I don't think that that's really... our push has been to minimize the impact down there, and so they're simply responding to what we've asked them to do.
Okay, so that's in the alleyways there,
Yes.
the areas next to it. We're not talking about some sort of robbery spree that's happening inside the apartments, people that are in danger. I'm sorry, what? Nuisance related? Okay, that helps to explain why they're there. Appreciate that. You had mentioned, Jim, that the statistics are online. It might be worth mentioning where the public could find it, those that might be watching this on video.
If you go to the Public Safety's website and you click on in the left field the crime map link, it'll take you to a page that actually has the links for the Criminal Justice Commission, and they can actually access it there, and they can get the complete slideshow that I show here every month.
Okay, and you start on the City of Lancaster's webpage and then go from there, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the update and presentation. We'll go to arrest statistics, Los Angeles County Sheriff Department, Deputy Ruiz.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the Commission. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our crime statistics from Lancaster Station for the month of October are as follows. For the top and core team, for month activity, Part 1 crimes, we had 5, and then 75 Part 2, arrests. 75 arrests and warrant arrests also included in those numbers of 80 were 21 parolees. That's significant. For the parolee numbers, that's actually a significant number from the previous month, which had 13. So the top core team did a lot of focusing on parolee searches, and there were some violations within those that made those numbers jump. One significant event was, or noteworthy, on October 16th. This is a picture of a bus that they had. They did a search warrant at a location in the city of Lancaster where they located a sole occupant of the suspect that they were looking for marijuana sales, as well as some counterfeit money. And I'm not sure if you also saw in the news press release, he was also arrested for animal cruelty. He had a pit bull that had both his hind legs bound, and the owner claimed just because as punishment for the animal, because the animal had misbehaved the day before and had kept the animal in the shower stall with both legs bound. Animal control responded, and he's also facing animal cruelty charges, compounded with all his other troubles that he's dealing with right now with marijuana sales. So that was the top core team's stats, along with the next slide shows the core team's graffiti enforcement from this is a 3-month time period, August, September, and October, both of 2012. The incidents of reported, this was related to the graffiti tracker. If you compare the next month, the following year of 2013, September 2013, October 2013, we're showing a significant decrease, 50% when we compared August, 42% decrease in September, and October is a 24 decrease. So we have a consistent trend from the previous year as far as tagging incidents that have been recorded on the graffiti tracker. So we're happy to report that. A lot of proactive policing on the part of the top core team, also keeping an eye on all the graffiti within the city. So we're happy to see those graffiti suspects not only be incarcerated, but they're also monitored for those that are on probation. So good efforts on the core team. Burglary suppression team, their numbers were actually pretty steady also from the previous month. The felony arrests are 19. Of those 19, only one was a parolee. They did 13 search warrants. They had 7 warrant arrests. They currently have 17 Ramey warrants in the system for the identified and named suspects related to previous cases that they have currently pending right now. In those numbers, they had a very busy month last month where they recovered about $80,000 and $80,200 in property and stolen items. Most of those are actually also returned to the rightful owners in related burglaries. No firearms were recovered this month. However, also a noteworthy incident that they had was, you probably saw on Halloween, there was a press release related to a gentleman that had been arrested for stealing gold teeth from corpses from some of the areas actually in Arizona. We just wanted to make a correction on that. There was a misleading article which made the belief that some of the victims that this gentleman by the name of Pete Lara had worked as an embalmer at a local mortuary. Most of the evidence indicated that at this point he had taken gold teeth from some of the bodies that he had embalmed and pawned the gold for its value in different areas here in Lancaster. He had a long history of working in Arizona. In fact, when he was arrested, he also had gold teeth in his property. So the investigation is still ongoing. I was part of that search warrant also, where close to 100 believed to be teeth at this point were also recovered, and based on some of his other items that are still ongoing, we're still trying to identify most of those. But that was a very noteworthy incident. I'm sure you probably saw it on the media and kind of all over, kind of fitting for Halloween, but just as gruesome. And I want to show you pictures this close to lunch, make sure no one lost their appetite. So I just wanted to lay some light on that. And then the LANCAP team, also their numbers pretty steady also. They have 23 felony arrests, 2 misdemeanor arrests. Also no firearms were recovered. Of those 25 arrests, 4 of them were parolees. They confiscated $21,400 worth of illegal narcotics. And this vehicle is significant of a kidnapping incident that happened in the city of Lancaster, where there was a mother that was driving this vehicle, and she was parked over near Jay and Fern area, and had turned her back as she was talking to some acquaintances on the porch while leaving the child in the vehicle and the engine running. Another unknown female got into the vehicle and then drove away with the child, and then went to Grace Resources, and that's where the deputies found the kidnapped child and the stolen vehicle also, and the suspect in the case. Another significant incident also is a LANCAP team also had a significant marijuana bust. They recovered, this is pretty significant, this number, 70 marijuana plants in this residence, and this was on October 2nd. The suspect was also arrested for stealing thousands of dollars worth of electrical power from the California Edison, and he's looking about at least, the case is still ongoing, so they haven't gone through with any plea bargain yet, but he's probably looking about maybe 4 years in state prison for that. And the reason why I bring that up is on the next slide. The narcotics team, felony arrest for patrol, we had 85. The crew had 9. Cocaine was 1.43 in grams. They didn't have any cocaine arrest. However, you notice a big significant difference of the marijuana, 3,855 compared to the crew, which did 377. This number is increased by patrol because this also includes that marijuana bust that the LANCAP team did with those 70-plus marijuana plants, along with Top Core team also had a significant marijuana bust that I had mentioned where the dog was involved in that animal cruelty case. So that's why it just looks like a very big significant difference between those two. It just happened to be two real big significant arrests by both the directed patrol unit teams. Those numbers go into the patrol side. Search warrants, okay, and there we go. And we have a zero tolerance now that was executed at Fox Field during this operation. You could tell our traffic unit, zero tolerance. I think they clocked this aircraft at going about just 0.5 Mach down the runway. So that broke some of the speedometers and some of the radar equipment off the vehicle here. So Deputy Fisk saw it only to cite the pilots for going too fast in our city. So, in jest, as you can tell. So, the pilots of the Blue Angels, they were actually very nice and accommodating for this picture. If there's any other questions that I can answer.
Were they cited for graffiti on the side of that airplane as well?
No, so that was actually authorized by the DOD
okay.
to have that, have their names put on there.
Any questions?
I do have a question. In regards to the graffiti, I did notice a little bit of a jump from September to October of this year, but congratulations on the decrease from last year. What can we as residents do when we see graffiti? Should we call and report?
Oh, absolutely.
What is a desired response?
I mean, obviously there are certain areas in the city that have more troublesome potential for graffiti than others, but we always recommend the LA Crime Stoppers. Last month I put that number out there also. Okay. Yeah, that goes directly, it will be handled or distributed amongst specific units, and the core team will also get like a trouble call, if you will, for something like that. Okay. The city also has a graffiti abatement program.
Ms. Pickens, you can also, our Public Works Department is very effective at removing the graffiti. Mm-hmm. They also coordinate very closely with the Sheriff's Department. So through our online portal, you can log in through Comcate, which is a city program we use, as well as call City Hall or Public Works, and those will get removed as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Questions?
Along with that, out of curiosity, in the areas where citizens have reported witnessing graffiti being conducted, how quickly are we able to identify those individuals, or is it difficult for the citizens to give accurate descriptions?
Well, a lot of it is based on the investigation on the type of graffiti. You know, most taggers leave a moniker, and then we do a frequency check on it. We isolate the area where it's at. We check with potential taggers that are on probation in the area, and we cross-reference it with just its style of writing.
Is there a certain time of day or evening that you've noticed it occurs more frequently?
Not so much, but there does seem to be a correlation when the school year also starts. So during the school year, like beginning of the August, September time frame, because some of these kids start comparing. Most of them are juvenile related, but not all of them are. Okay. So I can't give you a definite answer. It's just there is a trend during that time of year.
Okay.
The city also pays for a graffiti tracking system through Graffiti Tracker that actually evaluates the monikers of these individuals and the type of graffiti and categorizes it and puts it in a case management style for the Sheriff's Department. So even if the deputies don't have a report or someone didn't report it, but the graffiti's cleaned up and that picture is uploaded into Graffiti Tracker, that can be additionally added onto their cases. And as we've been talking about in the last several meetings, that's an ongoing issue for us for restitution recovery and what we're working very closely with the courts. So I actually have a meeting today with the juvenile judge regarding restitution issues and as these cases progress. But the Sheriff's Department has been very effective at arresting these individuals, and we see trends of rise and fall as these individuals are released from custody. Okay, and so we have some pretty significant loss yearly on this issue. So the more public participation that we can have in developing that intelligence and information on these individuals and remove them, the better off we're going to be as far as a fiscal management standpoint.
So, and we're very proud of the deputies that are on that team. They're very effective. They've even chased a tagger all the way as far as Bakersfield.
Well, anything we could do to help, and if there's any sort of criteria that maybe the citizens, need to kind of look out for, maybe that would help as well.
Sure, report it all. That helps us.
follow-up question for Lee, actually, on, I'm assuming a lot of the graffiti also takes place in some of these multifamily units, and I'm assuming also that in the training that the owners, managers of those facilities receive, it includes graffiti and how to handle that and how to work with the sheriff's department.
Absolutely. And, the thing, and as Deputy Ruiz is bringing forward, we want people to report every incident of it. And, we get some duplication on that based on people driving around and everything as well. And that'll be managed by the detectives that do the follow-up on that case. But, again, we have some loss by individuals in upwards of $60,000. Depending on how active that particular group is. Something we've had recently is these tagging crews almost develop into gang-style type mentality with taking over areas where they believe it's their area within the community to paint the graffiti. Okay, but that actually becomes an effective tool on the investigative side of it for us. But again, that is part of Neighborhood Watch. It's part of our Business Watch groups. It goes back to that theory that we want to remove it. As Mr. Cotto brought up, our public works guys are amazing how fast they get this stuff down. It really is truly based on the volume that is actually out there. And effectively, the detectives that are managing these cases, they file a lot of cases. And, we're getting into that whole parental responsibility aspect of things and everything as we develop this restitution process that we're working with the court on, so as well. So hopefully it's definitely reduced, and it's based on the attention that's put to it, and but it is quite interesting to see how it trends in areas of the city.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
We'll go to California Highway Patrol, presentation by Lieutenant Eric Broniers.
Sorry about that. We've recently made some changes over at our office as far as the hours that our officers work, and it's been quite positive difference just in the first month. Beginning October 1st, we switched from having 2 12-hour shifts. We had a graveyard and then a daytime shift to 3 10-hour shifts, and it has done a couple of things. One, it's given us more patrol time and officers actually out there enforcing the laws, so you should notice a difference driving around. Also, it has kind of increased the morale of the officers in general and made them a little more, they're not as tired, they're able to be out there and conduct what they're, safely conduct the activities that they're expected to do throughout the shift much easier rather than having to stay up for so long in between shifts, not getting very much sleep. That was some of the problems that they're experiencing. So since that's taken effect, we've seen some positive numbers. For the month of October, which was the first month where we implemented that, our overall crash statistics are down. I'll give you some overall numbers, and then I'll talk about percentages after, just so you have an idea. We had 1 fatal collision involving a motorcycle in the month of October. We had 26 injury collisions and 41 property damage collisions. Our DUI collision numbers were also pretty low, comparatively speaking. We had no fatal collisions attributed to DUI, 1 injury, and 4 property damage. But the overall numbers for injury collisions for the month of October, they were down 25%. For reportable accidents in general, they were down 22%. Some of the other numbers we were impressed with were the fact that overall arrests were up 15% for the month of October. Our vehicle abatement efforts for abandoned vehicles was up 26%. Our total enforcement contacts were up almost 15%. And services to the public, motor services in general, were up 17%. So we've seen quite a bit of difference since we've changed the shifts around. We're doing everything we can to ensure that that continues. But so far it's looking very positive. The DUI arrests were down, but they're almost exactly in correlation with the number of DUI collisions being down almost the exact same percentage. So that's always a good indicator. Generally in the colder months you do have less DUI activity, less people going out and driving impaired. and that's all I have.
Comments? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Move on to District Attorney update, and we have with us Robert Sherwood.
Yes, good morning. Significantly in our office, John Morris was transferred down to the parole division, so he's no longer the head deputy. Steve Franklin, who's been serving in Afghanistan for a year, is back, and he's the head deputy of our office. He had something he had to take care of, so he couldn't be here, but he is looking forward to coming back to these meetings and seeing all of you again. Nothing significant at our office. I don't know, has John been giving you the statistics, or was he giving you the filing numbers? 'Cause I have those if you're interested in the filing numbers. You want those?
Yes.
Okay.
Not consistently every month, but yes.
Because I did print them out for him every month, so... Let's see. So for this year, October, we had 143 cases that were presented to us for filing, 222 misdemeanors. Last year, 146 felonies, 527 misdemeanors, so about the same with felonies. The 527 misdemeanors for last year, that's an aberration. I'm not sure where that number came from, but in any event, the misdemeanor numbers are way down. For the year, then, we've got 1,472 felony cases presented to our office for filing, 2,919 misdemeanor cases. As compared to last year, at this time, we had 1,379 felony cases, 3,285 misdemeanors, so slightly more, about 100 more felony cases presented for filing, and about 300 fewer misdemeanors. So that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Questions? Thank you very much. We go to Business Watch Subcommittee Public Safety Update. Mr. Dorico.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Fuller. Just as Jim brought forward and talked about, is our strategy with the Business Improvement Group program has been, we're seeing the numbers as it relates to that. The activity level from those groups and participation in both areas 1 and 2 now has been really good. We've been dealing with some issues in regards to panhandling and some vagrancy and some issues in their centers, as well as their relationship with us, as well as the Sheriff's Department and when's appropriate to call, what the priority should be, those type of issues. So I think that we're starting to see the fruit of that labor being produced out there. One thing I want to bring up is, and with Captain Nelson here, is the solvency rate of still our station, and that's not a statistic that we bring out, and probably what we should talk about at some point here, and be inclusive on some of these more significant cases like robberies, aggravated assaults, those type of things, those cases. How many of those individuals in a short period of time, based on the notification from Captain Nelson to us here at the city and on an incident that occurred that's significant, and relative to the time it takes the Sheriff's Department to have that individual in custody, is pretty amazing, truthfully, and it's something we don't talk about regularly, but I think it's something significant. And part of that's probably attributed to the fact that we are kind of a contained community, and we have good networking in the community with our neighborhood watch groups, as well as our business folks in town, and just our community members as a whole. But I want to commend the Sheriff's Department for that. That's something that always amazes me. Recent history with some significant murders that we had occurred early in the year where those individuals are already in custody, and those cases have been filed with the DA and in a very short period of time. So we remove those individuals that victimize people in our community from the street relatively quickly. So that'll couple along with other community programs we're doing out there. The public safety specialist guys with Scott and Anthony, they've handled over 750 cases as it relates to quality of life and neighborhood issues so far since the inception of that program, which is pretty significant when you think about it's been less than a year that they've been in place. And in our office, we want to focus now over the next 6 weeks, especially as it relates to holiday safety, things we'll be putting out through the media as it relates to notifying the public to be more aware, okay, and be diligent in the way they practice their shopping, be observant in the shopping centers, working closely with our retailers out there to create a safe environment for the community members to shop in their locations, as well as a holiday patrol that we'll be implementing at the end of this month through the holiday season with the Sheriff's Department, so there'll be a lot more high-profile visibility out there as it relates to patrol. Something we did significantly here at City Hall, we conducted an active shooter training exercise that was inclusive of all employees from the city of Lancaster that participated in a training effort with the our local sheriff's station, and I think we got about 70% of the deputies through the training as well. Here we conducted at City Hall, which worked out very well for both sides. It gave a real good training opportunity and learning experience for our employees, as well as the Sheriff's Department had a significant number of active role players that is usually difficult in those training situations to participate in here at City Hall. And I have to tell you, it was impressive to watch how it worked. Captain Nelson's training staff was able to bring up members from the Sheriff's SWAT team up here to provide the training and give instruction on both sides of the house. They were very good with our employees, talking about tactics and survivability, as well as actively teaching the deputies tactical issues as it relates to that. So that was a good opportunity for all of us. And what's finally coming to fruition, we're working on the final details of the truancy, anti-truancy campaign that we're going to be implementing at Antelope Valley High School. It goes in front of the school board in the month of December for hopefully their approval, so we can move forward with that. Again, emphasis on the fact that truancy has a direct impact on some of our daytime crime rates, as well as the fact that if kids aren't in school, they're not learning. They're not in the classroom. The school's being impacted as it regards to ADA. We've done significant program improvement at Antelope Valley High School that now the kids need to take opportunity, so they have to be there. So that's something that's going to be coming forward. And so after the approval of that from the school board, that's the initial hurdle I'd like to bring in front of this group, and then we can explain the project in depth at that point. And that's all I have.
Outstanding. Any comments?
I just want to say I attended the Boulevard event, and the safety, the presence of I would say, the Public Safety Department, kudos to you guys, kudos to the Park Rangers and the Sheriff's Department. The presence as well as enforcement, if any little thing was to get out of pocket, sent a huge message to people of comfort as well as to others of if you're going to do something, like, it's going to be taken care of. So I just want to say that was a tremendous success, and thank you.
Any comments?
I have a question. Are we still doing the truancy sweeps with probation?
Well, that's part of the discussion that's occurring. Based on the relationship between the daily attendance officers assigned to each school, as well as working closely with their probation department members that are on those school sites, that needs to be coordinated out with the Sheriff's Department as we operate out in the community. This is something to try and lessen some of that demand on resources for those individuals and help from a different process. But probation will actively be involved in that development of this. And there's different levels of how the enforcement or what action takes place. There's a diversionary mindset to it that comes back to our community youth court, as well as we have reoffenders, what defines chronic truancy, and then versus a juvenile who's on probation, actively being supervised. So that's definitely something that needs to be incorporated, and working closely with the parameters as it relates to the education code and the welfare and institutions code and the conditions of probation. So that there needs to be oversight, and how it follows with the SARB committee board that's required through the ed code. So there's a whole development process that we've been working very closely with the school officials, and at this point it's appropriate. We've brought the community daily attendance workers into it, and probation has participated in some of those meetings as well.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of comments. One is you started out your presentation talking about Business Watch, and I think it's important for us to remember, as Jim Cobalt had pointed out to us, that as you see the participation increase, your arrest statistics go up, so you kind of pay the price, if you will, statistically by seeing crime increase in those areas at the same time that we're saying it's a successful program, with the understanding and hope certainly that down the road you're going to see those numbers go down as it becomes less and less profitable for people to engage in illegal activities in the areas that have been targeted. So good work on that. It's just a kind of a note to ourselves as we're looking at these numbers as well, is that there's sometimes a statistical price to pay that hopefully will be worth it down the road. So that was one. And the other is that in your absence last month, we had the opportunity to hear from a number of people from the Public Safety Department. I want to let you know that they represented you well, did a great job. We got a lot of information, very thorough orientation, gave us a better understanding, really, of what the various aspects of your department consists of, what they do, very hardworking individuals. And I don't know if you were able to watch it on video, but you would have been proud of it if you had.
I did, and they weren't very happy with me for having them have to do that. There's a certain comfort level that goes along with that. I will tell you that I'm very fortunate. I have an excellent group of people that I get to work with daily here, both within my department and here at City Hall. And what I do like and love about everybody that we have a relationship with is everyone has a can-do attitude. We identify a problem, and then it's like, okay, how do we make it work? And that goes along the lines from everyone that's represented in this room and our daily contact and how we try and work to make this a better community. So, yes, I'm very proud of them, and they make my job easy.
Well, if there was anybody that was up there that was nervous, they certainly didn't show it. In fact, we took a vote, and we decided that most of them do a better job than you.
I would agree with that. And truthfully, I'm not in, it would be okay with me if you didn't want me to talk.
No, that obviously isn't just, but thank you again for allowing that to happen.
Thank you, sir.
We did appreciate it. Any other questions, comments? Okay, this is the time where we entertain public business from the floor on non-agendized items. Do we have any speakers' cards?
No speaker cards.
Speakers' cards. So that we move to commissioner comments. Go ahead.
Along with Commissioner Pickens' report or comments a while ago, we've had several on-campus and off-campus events at the college, and I'd like to thank Captain Nelson and Deputy Murgatroyd, who works on our campus, and Mike and the cadets for certainly being there for support. Just like Ms. Pickens said about feeling safe on the boulevard, the college campus feels a lot safer with the assistance that we're getting at all of our events. So, thank you.
Any other comments? Well, with that, then we are adjourned until our next regular meeting, Wednesday, December 11th at 10 a.m.